Hey, everybody, getting you ready for Monday Night Football. You got Cincinnati at 4-8, Dallas at 5-7. The Bengals really a much better team than the record would indicate. But you know what? It is what it is. Glad to have you with us. We're talking about the Kings off for a couple days after routing the Jazz last night. How about the Juan Soto deal? I did a rant on this today. I just don't think that's good for baseball. And listen, I'm a Yankees fan, and I'm fine with him not being on the Yankees. I'm fine. I really am. Here's the link to call the show if you want to get on. It's easy to do. You got the QR code, but I'm never paying a guy $50 million a year to play baseball. I'm just not. Get me a position player. Get me two pitchers. Get me a relief pitcher. I'm fine. I don't want to put all the money into one guy. I'm not into that. So, listen, do I think it's good for the Mets? You know what? I think it's good for the Mets because it gives them the back pages of the tabloids. And in New York, that's important. But, you know, the Mets to me are the Mets. I don't think Juan Soto makes them a championship caliber team. That's the way I look at the Mets. So we'll see. Again, I think it's bad for baseball. I think baseball in itself is bad. I think the sport has regressed so much. I rarely watch baseball now. I rarely watch it. And I really mean that. I rarely watch baseball. I don't have the interest in it that I had. I don't like the way the game's played. I don't like the specialization of the game. I just don't. The ball's not in play enough for me. Even the World Series this year, as a diehard Yankee fan, I didn't get into it. I can't even compare it to when the Yankees and the Dodgers played in the late 70s and the early 80s. Like, it was completely different. I mean, I wouldn't miss a pitch in those World Series games. Like, I plan my day around it. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm just not into it like I was. I don't like the way there's really very few things I like about baseball now. It's so boring to me. But anyway, good for Juan Soto and good for the Mets, but I wouldn't do it. I would not do it. All right, again, if you want to get in on the program, also, you know, college football, the playoffs. I did a rant on this earlier this week. You're always going to have complaints, whether you have 4 teams in the college football playoff or you have 12. Okay? The controversy is always going to be there. There's always going to be a team that feels like they got screwed. Alabama cannot feel that way. They have 3 losses. They lost to Vanderbilt and they lost to Oklahoma. Come on now. All right? And you weren't even competitive against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's terrible this year. Can't do it. So, you know, I don't have a problem. Do I think Alabama would beat SMU head to head? Yes, I do. Do I think Alabama would beat Clemson head to head? Yes, I do. But that's not how it works. That's not how it works. You know, you lose 3 games and you lose to a couple of bad teams. You lose to Oklahoma? Come on. Can't do it. You know, losing at Tennessee is one thing. Losing against Oklahoma is another. You can't lose to Oklahoma. All right, again, keep the messages rolling. Hello from Vacaville, Telly. Hello from Vacaville. Did you feel the earthquake today? I guess my buddies were telling me. Ryan said he was doing his show at 2 o'clock and felt the rumble. You want to feel the rumble? I was at the World Series in '89 with the Giants and the Dodgers, or the Giants and the A's, sitting in the upper deck in the auxiliary media section, and that was scary for me. All right. This is a very interesting one. Do I feel any sense of vindication? Excuse me. Do you feel any sense of vindication that the election outcome was in part a reaction to cancel culture? I hope you win your lawsuit. It's a great question. Yeah, I actually do. I do. But I'm waiting for the judge to rule on my lawsuit, and I'm very much looking forward to that day. I do believe that factored into the election. I think it's a great question. Do I personally feel vindicated? No. I won't feel vindicated until I win my case. then I'll feel vindicated. It's a great question, though. I was very open. I didn't vote in last month's election. But yes, I do believe that factored into I think and I hate to get into politics, but I think, well, 78 million people kind of felt that way too. I think they had enough of it. Absolutely. Would you say you watch the NBA outside the Kings or MLB outside the Yankees more? I don't watch Major League Baseball even with the Yankees anymore. So I don't watch it. I probably watched this past baseball season, not including the playoffs, maybe 10 total innings of baseball. You know. Grant, what do I think Cousins' ceiling was if he didn't have on and off court issues? Thanks. He would have been the greatest player in the history of the Sacramento Kings. And he would have been one of the best players to ever play in the game. There's no doubt in my mind you will win. Thank you. I appreciate your support. But yeah, back to your question about Cousins. Had he not been such a disturbance and so fragile mentally, with such a anger and bully personality, he would have been the best player in the history of the franchise. Sacramento franchise, by the way. By the way, just so you know, I never got into like the Kansas City Kings and the Cincinnati Royals. Screw that. That's not Sacramento. And listen, do I respect Oscar Robertson? Yeah, he was a great player. But, they used to bring Oscar Robertson out for the Oscar Robertson Triple-Double Award. It never made sense to me. Oscar Robertson has nothing to do with Sacramento. Nobody in Sacramento looks at Oscar Robertson and go, "Oh, wow, former King." No one does that. Nobody. That has nothing to do with the Sacramento Kings. I've never understood that. When I hear about franchise records, that's not a franchise record. No. It started in '85 with Sacramento Kings. All right? I've never understood that. It just never made sense to me. And again, I met Oscar. He used to come on TV with us. I have nothing against Oscar Robertson, but I could even tell Oscar wasn't crazy about being out in Sacramento. I mean, that I get it, Do I think Monty McNair would hire Doug Christie as coach if Mike Brown? Come on, Ace, stop it. No. If you want to get in on the program, let me give you the link. It's easy to get on the program. You can call up if you so choose. There is the link. We'll put you right on. Being a head coach in the NBA, it's not like just because you played in the league, like J.J. Redick can come in and be a head coach. Doug would not make a good NBA head coach, in my opinion. I hope you're still doing a book after you settle the lawsuit, talking about it. But the lawsuit has to be completed first, and then I will explore that next chapter of my life. But one step at a time. One step at a time. Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate that. All right. Why don't we say hello? Hey, Rich, how are you?
Hey, Grant, can you hear me?
I sure can. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to tell you, Soto was here in San Diego for like a couple years,
Yep.
and I wasn't impressed with him at all because he spent most of his time working on getting walks. He wasn't the kind of batter up there that was looking to hit a home run it was just like, I'm like, what the heck is up with this guy?
Well, he had a great year for the Yankees. I mean, you got to call it the way it is. He was really, really good for the Yankees this year, and he was great in the playoffs. But I'm not paying a guy $700. I'm not giving a guy a 15-year contract. I'm just not.
Yeah. Crazy. Hey,
Yeah.
you talked about the earthquake of '89.
Yes.
My in-laws were there, and And my wife was living in San Francisco at the time. She was up in a high rise, and she thought it was over, man.
I did
It was
too.
quite an experience for a lot of folks in the city.
I thought I was going to die. I've never been in an
Wow.
earthquake before. I was sitting in the upper deck between first base and home plate with a lot of the auxiliary media members. Chris Berman was in my section and others like that. And at first, I thought everyone was stomping their feet. And then I looked to the left, and the plexiglass in the broadcast booth you could see going in and out. And then I'll never forget, started to sway in my seat, and I was holding on to my armrest, and I was saying to myself, wow, this is what I was saying. This is going to
Wow.
be the biggest story in the world, and we're all going to die, and we're all going to be gone. And then after the rumbling stopped, everyone started cheering because a lot of the people have experienced earthquakes before that were in that stadium. I had not. And
Yeah.
back then, Rich, there were no cell phones.
Yeah.
And people were getting their information about the severity of the damage based on their radio.
Yeah.
And we had back then, it looked like a car battery with a phone on top of it. Okay.
Uh,
It was a battery packed phone. It was heavy. And we had that. And when me and my photographer, Cody, went out into the parking lot, I'll never forget this at Candlestick Park. The line to use the payphone went on forever. And we literally had people begging us and offering us $20 to use our phone. And we had to decline and say, I'm sorry, we can't. We are now going to be going into the city to do stories, and we need to keep our power for our cell phone. We can't let you use it.
wow.
And I'll never forget, that was one of the most amazing experiences that I've ever been through. But Rich, I will tell you, for a period of 10 to 15 seconds, I thought I was going to die.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. That was something we'll never forget. I was actually managing the Chevys at that time in Howe Avenue, um, the Chevy's restaurant there
Yeah.
on Howe, and I had a couple employees that went to the game, and it took them forever to get home.
Oh, yeah.
That night after the game.
That's
It was
right. Because
crazy.
the only way was over the Golden Gate Bridge.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 So anyway, what an experience.
Yeah.
Um, hey, I wanted to add. I am heading to Sacramento on Thursday. Could you recommend somewhere in Sacramento? I'm going there to celebrate my older sister's birthday.
Yeah.
Could you recommend a really good place to go watch because of course the Kings game on Thursday is in New Orleans, but somewhere in Sacramento to go watch a game?
I can't, but I'm sure people, if you watch the chat line, can. I'm not familiar with downtown Sacramento other than Doco's got some, places that,
Close by.
yeah, but we'll have our audience help you out. Okay.
Okay. All right, brother. All
Thank
right.
you, bud.
Good chatting with you, brother.
You too. Take care.
All right. Take care.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye. Can anybody help out Rich in that department? I really don't know. Is there a time frame on the judgment of your case? We thought it was going to be in July, and here we are in December. So I don't know. Non-sports related question. What's the best concert you've ever been to? That's a good one. Maybe Leonard Skinner in the late 70s at the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island. I thought Billy Joel and Elton John at Arco was great. U2 at Arco was great. I like jazz. I love Kenny G and Peebo Bryson at Arco was great. I saw Whitney Houston one year on New Year's Eve at Arco, which was phenomenal. I haven't been to a ton of concerts. Those are the ones that probably stick out. And then I have a great story. I was doing the Canadian Football League for 2 years in the 90s, and we got to Winnipeg, and we found out that the Rolling Stones were playing that night at the football stadium, completely sold out. And my buddy that did the sidelines, Greg Coet, great guy, former starting defensive back at USC. He said, don't worry, we'll get into the concert. Let's go. I'm like, okay. And we went out to the stadium, and we were waiting near the entrance exit of the stadium, one of the big entrances to the stadium. And they had a warm-up band, and we could hear them. And we were out there for about 2 hours. And finally, and you got to remember, back then, there's a different technology. They didn't scan the tickets. You only had to show your ticket. And they walked out of the stadium. They had a child in their arms, and we stopped them and said, "Hey, are you leaving?" And they said, "Yes." I go, "Can we buy your tickets?" And they go, "No, you can't buy them, but you can have them." Well, the Rolling Stones concert, the actual playing of the Stones started about, I want to say 90 minutes late, 2 hours late. And they had an issue at home with, and their kid, whatever. I can't, but they gave us their tickets and we walked in. And they got to remember, this is a football stadium. This is a big stadium in Winnipeg, outdoors, summertime. And we ended up sitting, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 10 rows from the stage on the field, in the seats that were on the field, not in the stands. And we watched the Rolling. We missed maybe 2 songs of the Stones. It was freaking great. So now that I think about it, that's probably the best concert I've ever been to. What is my favorite sports venue? Well, it was always the old Yankee Stadium, which doesn't exist anymore, and then the Chicago Stadium for watching the hockey was the best. It was absolutely the best. Hard to beat. Hard to beat. I'll just say that. Really difficult to beat that venue for a hockey game, Chicago Stadium. It's absolutely unbelievable. Tell you what else is unbelievable. Bennett's, Sacramento, Roseville, and the West Side Grill in Rockland. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com to make a reservation and more. Don't forget, a great place to gather during the holidays with their happy hour, 2 to 6, their sips and taste. They have great share plates, tremendous prices on the various wines. Do you know they have over 60 different types of wine available by the glass? Don't forget about their weekend brunch as well. Prime seafood and steak at Bennett's. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com to make a reservation. And thinking about getting out of the greater Sacramento area, I have got a really good idea for you. Check out Sunrise Landing in Colusa. All right. This is from Blazona Development. Many models to choose from. And remember, there's no Mellorews out there. There's no homeowners. All right. And you have various lot sizes. Good location. I-5, Highway 45, Highway 20. And it's adjacent to the Colusa Golf and Country Club. Just go to ColusaSunrise.com and you'll get all the information you need on Sunrise Landing. Don't forget Monday Night Football, Cincinnati and Dallas. By record, not the best of games, but, it's still Monday Night Football, right? Still Monday Night Football. I have never talked to Michael Jordan, Nope. Do I think that the Kings should trade Herter, Picks, and Lyles for another key piece? Herter, Picks, and Lyles, like a Cameron Johnson. I don't think you're going to get a lot in that. I don't think picks are that important if you're going to be. I think a pick's important if you feel like that team is going to be a lottery team, but a lot of times those picks are protected. So, Eduardo, hola, Eduardo, watching in Chile. How are you, buddy? It's been a long time. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Love him. What a great guy. Ed, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well down there in South America. Love having people watch this stream from around the world. Absolutely love it. Good stuff right there, Ed. Hope you're doing well. Ed, you coming to Sacramento anytime soon, buddy? Any plans to get back to Sacktown? I love taking Ed to the Arco Arena for the first time and having him on my radio show and getting him on the court, taking pictures with some of the fellas. I love doing that for Ed. He was like a kid in a candy store that night. That was great. Flew all the way here from Chile. You know what? I'm doing fine, buddy. Doing fine. I still hope I can get down there and see you one of these days. All right? That would be awesome. You can show me around. Just like I showed you around, you can return the favor. How's that sound, buddy? All right? You show me around. Any NFL thoughts from yesterday? Yeah. The Chiefs just keep finding ways to win. They just find a way to win. And you have to wonder, you're going to have to beat them in the playoffs because they are not going to beat themselves. All right? That stood out to me. I saw LeBron's rookie commercial the other day, and I saw you were on there. Any behind the scenes story shooting that commercial? Yeah, Jerry and I got to the arena at about 8 in the morning that day. And, LeBron wasn't there. None of the people you saw in the commercial were there. They had about 50 fans that they moved around section to section to section to film stuff. And we were there for 10 hours and we did our thing. And then about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call and they wanted me to go to a studio that they had set up to voice the audio track. So we were there about 10 hours, and the only clip they used from us being there the 10 hours was the clip that you actually saw. Now, my voice is on the whole commercial. If you want to look it up on YouTube, it's called LeBron's Commercial Pressure. Just put LeBron James Nike Pressure, and you'll see the commercial. It was a great experience, Eduardo says, that was amazing. One of my greatest nights. I would love to have you here in Chile. Would love that. It would mean a lot to me, buddy. I would really, really enjoy that. I would enjoy that. Hey, don't forget that during the Kings games on the post-game show, we have a rant with Grant. And I'll do a rant sometimes on these shows if you have a great idea. And it is brought to you by EDH Motors Automotive Reimagined. You go to edhmotors.com, you get all the information you need. And if you're looking at a new vehicle this Christmas, then just go to EDH Motors, whether it's Mercedes, Land Rover, Toyota, whatever brand you're looking for, EDH Motors can get it for you. And folks, you never have to step foot into a typical franchise dealership. Saves you money and time, and you know what? You might even have a little fun. Check out their inventory at edhmotors.com. They've got a little bit of everything from exotics, highline, classics, economy. And here's what you need to remember. If they don't have what you're looking for, they're going to go out and get it for you. Again, their auto lounge is located in the El Dorado Hills Town Center. Just check out EDH Motors at edhmotors.com. That's EDH Motors, Automotive Reimagined. We get you ready for Monday Night Football on If You Don't Like That. Kings off for a couple days. Next up, New Orleans. Brandon Ingram, by the way, is out indefinitely. So, yeah. Pelicans just having a horrible, just a horrible season. All right. Any thoughts on Sean McDermott taking the penalty? Yeah, none of that made sense to me. Just didn't, Yeah, we did keep getting checks in the mail for quite a while, which was very nice. Bama appropriately left out. Yes, they lost 3 games and they lost to Oklahoma. You can't be losing to Oklahoma. They were a bad team this year. They lost at Vanderbilt. You can't lose to Vanderbilt. Even though they were better this year, you can't lose to Vanderbilt. You just can't. Did I call the Kings games when they won back-to-back 50-point blowouts? I think it was in the 90s. Well, I started calling the Kings in 1988. So the answer to that question would be yes. Yes, I did. I don't remember those games specifically. I remember a lot more games where I was behind the mic when the Kings lost by 50 than when they won by 50. Trust me on that. But no, I don't specifically remember that. I'd have to think about that. Good memory, though. I called thousands of games. I remember a lot of them, but I certainly don't remember what you're referring to. I'd have to go back and look it up. I'd have to go back and look it up. Love the questions we're getting here. Good stuff, Let's see what else we got. Riley's talking about, I think, that game as well. There's a lot of coaching that goes on now that I don't quite understand, He said, Napes, my Rams held on real money, or McVay knew he had to go for it late, up 3, 4th and 5. Yeah, there's a big win, boy. Keeps them alive, keeps them breathing. How about Seattle in that division, though? You know? Do I recall the favorite game that I've called? Probably the game I did in the playoffs at Dallas by myself on radio, which the YouTube highlights are on there. That was one of my favorite games that I've ever called. The 35-point comeback at Chicago was one of my favorite games. Were Jerry and Doug the only commentators you called King games with on a regular basis in your career? No. I started with Ted Green, who worked with Roy Firestone as his producer on Up Close. And then I worked with Quinn Buckner for a year. I worked with a guy that became truly one of my best friends in life, Derek Dickey, for a number of years before he moved on to work with the Chicago Bulls with Neil Funk, and then Jerry. So I've worked with a lot of different people. Derek was the salt of the earth, man. Love that man. We lost him way too early. Way too early. But I worked with some great people. I really did. Hey, don't forget about New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. They are available around the clock 24/7. You go to sackserviceplumbing.com or you call the number on your screen. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. I hope you don't need any repairs over the holiday season, but if you do, they'll be there to help you out and take care of your issues. That's sackserviceplumbing.com. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. Any interest in this game tonight? Because you got two teams with bad records, you know? Hurts is struggling in the last two games. You're right. Saquon is carrying the load. No question about that. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Eagles, the Lions, I think you got to include the Packers and the Vikings who can bite you. I'm not sold on any team from the NFC South. Listen, if Seattle gets in, I can't pick them against Detroit. I can't pick them in a game like that. But, in the playoffs, right, what do we say? It's the one game. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. John says you're interested. Yes, John, because you're used to losing football and teams that don't make it very far in the playoffs if they get to the playoffs. So I understand you're interested. Yes. And if you win, you'll screw up your draft pick. So I understand why you're interested. Absolutely. But you're a loyal fan, and I appreciate that. I appreciate fans, and I got to tell you, I'm having trouble watching the Giants and their prevent offense, and they're horrible. God, that's awful football. And I watched the Giants from 1962 on. And trust me when I say that I've watched a lot of bad football. Oh, have I watched a lot of bad football? I don't know if I've seen it as bad as this. I mean, horrible. Awful. Awful. Last game before fantasy playoffs, so lots will be watching. Is that right? This is the last game? I don't even know how that works. I really don't. I've never played fantasy sports in my life, and I never will. I know everyone's into it. I'm not. I have no interest. I can't root for any other player on another team. Just can't do it. I can't be sitting there tonight as a Giants fan cheering for someone that's on the Cowboys. Like, what are you kidding me? What's wrong with you? Is Dable gone after this season? It's a great question. I'm going to say no. Joe Shane, the general manager, though, I think he's on very thin ice. We'll see. I would say no. The Maras have great experience with coaches they believe in, one being Bill Parcells. And if you look at Parcells' first couple of years, they were awful. And the Giants stuck with him despite the pleas from the media and the fans, and the rest is history. He became one of the great coaches in the history of the National Football League. So you have to look at this Giants team and ask yourself, how much is coaching and how much is the personnel? And to me, it's much more about the personnel than it is about the coaching. So for that reason, I will say no. They will not fire Brian Dable. Now, the problem with that is if you fire Joe Shane, then you have a GM who wants his own coach. And I'm not sure that John Mara wants to go that route. If the 49ers sneak into the playoffs, they will pull off a Giants type of a run and win the Lombardi. Book it. They might, but they're going to have to win and get help. Seattle's going to have to lose 2 of their next 3 games, I think, and they could based on their schedule. You know, Garrison, I just talked about this. I think that it's bad for baseball, good for Soto. I think it's good for the Mets for the short term, gets all the publicity away from the Yankees and onto them. But I think it's very bad for baseball, period. I think, and I would, and as a Yankees fan, Garrison, I'm happy they didn't pay him that money. I'm happy, you know. Riley, and this is a good one, Riley. I wouldn't say nobody's talking about it, but the Steelers and Mike Tomlin and the staff resurrected Wilson's career. Mike Tomlin is great. Jay says Seattle has a hard schedule coming up. Yes, they do. I could see them losing, 2 games. I could see that. A 4-way tie in that division would benefit the 49ers. They can get in that way. But they got to win all their games for the most part. There you have it. All right. We're going to wrap it up today. I'll be back tomorrow. What is tomorrow? We got no Kings games tomorrow. I'll do a show at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Sorry, Patrick, in New York. You might have to stay up late. But, yeah, 8 o'clock tomorrow. 8 o'clock tomorrow. Garrison, you're worth it if you can get it, my friend. If you can get it, I guess you're worth it. I don't begrudge him at all. I really don't. I don't. All right. Talk to you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Enjoy the game, everybody. Bye-bye now.